Hi, I'm Amanda Jane, and welcome to the Communicate with Confidence podcast. My aim is to take the fear out of communicating and make it easy and fun. On this podcast, I'm going to be talking about everything to do with good communication, how we can connect with our audience, get better at speaking and giving presentations, increase visibility, and ultimately get more sales. I'll also be talking to some incredible people about their business, and I'll be getting their insights on how they view communication and how comfortable they are showing up in person and on social media. So let's get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Communicate with Confidence podcast. Today I have with me Emily Gilliland from Master Your Midlife. Hello Emily.
Hi Amanda, it's really lovely to meet you.
Thank you for joining me. And we are going to talk about Master Your Midlife in a little bit more detail. But before we get there, we're going to do my usual 3 questions. So have you had a chance to think about your favourite motivational song?
Yes, I have. And I've come up with a song that maybe not a lot of people actually know. It's a song by a band called Blind Melon, and it's called Change. And the message is basically, people will try and put you down when you're changing, but that it's just because they're afraid of change and you should be embracing it. So that's kind of the overall message. It sounds like quite a sad song when you hear it, but it's actually got a really lovely message behind it. And it's, one of my favorites.
That sounds brilliant. I don't know that song, so I'm going to look that up. Blind Melon.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I will add that to the list. And do you have a favorite motivational quote?
Yes. So one of my favorites is, again, I'm not sure who this is actually by, but it's basically success doesn't come from what we do occasionally. It comes from what we do consistently. And it might not sound like the most motivating quote, but actually it's such a true message. And I think a lot of people miss it. And actually just, being consistent is going to beat being motivated pretty much any day of the week.
That is so true. And I think sometimes people get distracted by thinking that success comes so easily to people that are out there because they only show the glossy bit of the success, don't they? But they never see the work that goes on behind the scenes. No, that's really good. I love that. And what about a favorite book? Do you read, or do you have a favorite author?
I do read. I don't have a favorite author, and I'm somebody who picks up books and reads them, enjoys them, and then sort of forgets about them. And I do spend a lot of time reading educational books, so not all of my books are that exciting. But I recently read the Slow Horses series, which is all about, well, it's been made into a TV series, so some people definitely know it, about this kind of reject group of Secret Service agents, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great series.
I love Slow Horses, and I watched it on Apple TV, and it is, I think, my most favorite drama on TV. I got my husband into it. I watched it again with him, and it was just absolutely fantastic. But I might read the books, and I think there are new series in the pipeline, and I'm so excited. So if you haven't watched Slow Horses, watch Slow Horses.
It's a good recommendation.
Yeah. So how many books are there, just while we're on the subject?
I'm not even sure, actually. I don't think I've even read all of them. I've read the first few, but I'm not sure that exactly how many. So there should be quite a lot of
I will look them
potential
up.
TV series to do.
That is good news for me. And I love all the characters in the series as well. Oh, thank you for that. I'm going to look up those books. It's such a brilliant concept as well. Fantastic series. I absolutely loved it. Thank you for that. So we will move on to your leadership journey. And so can you share your leadership journey and some key milestones that have shaped your career, and maybe tell us a little bit more about what you do?
So I have had a bit of a kind of up and down in my career. I started off working in publishing, in doing marketing and doing events, moved into kind of PR, and then had a realization that that was not really for me, and decided to retrain originally as a personal trainer. And I knew immediately that I wanted to work with women and work with specifically pregnancy and postnatal, to start off with, to really kind of help people, because at the time when I first started, no one was really talking about the fact that you need to be doing things slightly differently when you're pregnant or postnatal in terms of fitness and all of that kind of thing. So I set up as a PT, and then in the course of, working with women, I was like, actually, women don't just stop at postnatal. We're going to move on to menopause, and people need to be prepared for that. And so I started to really look into that, retrained as a menopause coach and then as a therapeutic coach to kind of hopefully cover everything that really women need and that kind of guidance that they need as they enter that quite turbulent perimenopausal period.
Wow, so you can work with a woman basically from that journey through, to being pregnant all the way through up to her menopausal journey. I was just thinking I could have done with you when I was pregnant, because I could remember being pregnant for the first time, and at that time I was going to the gym and I wanted to carry on going to the gym, and I remember telling them I was pregnant, and they didn't know what to do with me.
No.
And I was like, okay, so I left. And not long after that, I remember they had a feature in the local paper where they had done they had this new facility for pregnant women. And I remember thinking, I gave you an idea, but I didn't know what to do, as what I could do. And I wish I had known you back then, but it's just, yeah, you just need to make some minor adjustments, I suppose.
It's really just kind of letting people know that it's getting better, but there's always been like quite a fear around movement and pregnancy, and lots of myths about what you should and shouldn't be doing. And it's really kind of letting women know that actually that you can still definitely exercise. You might just have to slightly modify some of the things that you do. We maybe don't want you to be doing slalom skiing when you're heavily pregnant, but
or something that you hadn't done, yes, or taking up a new thing,
something else crazy that you haven't done. But generally, even if you've never exercised before, you can start when you're pregnant and just build it up. It's a great thing to do.
So would you do that one-on-one, or would you have a cohort of women, a class of women?
So I have had group coaches and groups before, but I normally do one-to-one because everybody's different and everyone's starting from a different, point. So whether that's pregnancy, postnatal, or menopause, we take into account, where that person is. And although there'll be a lot of things that are obviously, everyone will do, they'll all do it at maybe a slightly different level. So, I'll sometimes have people come who've never done anything. And then there are people who are serious athletes and just want to know how to keep that safely, basically.
Wow, it's so interesting. So I'm just absolutely fascinated that people have the presence of mind to seek a coach for that, which I think is incredible. And I wish I had had the presence of mind. So did you have any role models or anyone that inspired that in you when you first started doing it? Where did the idea come from?
So the idea actually came from after I'd had my son. I felt like I needed something more, like, doctors say 6 weeks, off you go, do whatever you want. And I knew that that wasn't right. I could feel that I needed something more. And I actually met a lady who ran group courses. She was a nurse who'd retrained to work specifically with postnatal women. And she kind of gave me the idea, I guess, to retrain and think, actually, there's something I can do here that I can really help people. I always felt like I knew quite a lot about exercise and all of that kind of thing. But when it came to pregnancy and postnatal, I knew nothing. I had a baby, but that was it. So I really sort of looked to her and said, well, actually, that's something that a lot of people need, and she's, one person, and I can probably follow and do something similar.
Wow, it's so fascinating, and with the struggles that come after having a baby, you can get lonely, you can get isolated, lots of things can sort of settle in your head, and to have that resource after that, I think it's fantastic thing to be able to reach out and be able to do. So within that, then moving on to communication, how important do you feel that is then, building that into what you do?
Oh, huge. I mean, it's a big part of why I decided to retrain as a therapeutic coach, because actually as a, as a personal trainer or somebody who's working with women one-to-one, you're very much a big part of their support system. And I felt that I wanted to be able to actually really support them and know how to do that properly. Because you're constantly being told things, and you want to be able to really kind of guide people in the right direction and be able to pick up on things where maybe people are starting to struggle a little bit, and to know how to kind of really guide them and help them understand that actually a lot of what they're feeling isn't just them. So I think a lot of people feel very isolated when they start to maybe feel a little bit doubtful about what's going on in their lives. And especially when I'm working with mums, and a lot of mums now are maybe having their babies a little bit later, so they're really starting to hit 2 points of upheaval in their lives at the same time. So they're having babies, but they're also possibly entering that perimenopausal period, and they do start to feel maybe a little bit lost, and there's big identity shifts happening. And so it's good to be able to kind of communicate to people that that's okay and it's normal, and you're not going mad. Things happen.
It hadn't occurred to me really, to think that, yeah, you might actually have that cross section of age. And I had my children when I was 31 and 34, and I considered myself to not majorly older mum, but as you're right, the ages people have put it off and got older and older, and it's normal now, isn't it, to sort of maybe be late 30s, early 40s. But
it's not unusual at all. It's much more common now for people, especially because women are obviously much more invested in careers than previous generations have been. So it makes perfect sense that we're leaving it later to have babies. But then you can sort of end up in that slight, I mean, it can be a lot of turmoil just having a baby anyway. But if you're also then hitting some of that perimenopause as well, then you can find yourself in a place where you sort of feel alone, I guess, because you don't feel like yourself in the same way, maybe.
But what a wonderful person to have in you if you've got experience of that and you work with other women in that position, and you're able to say you're not alone. There are other women in that situation, and what you're going through is perfectly normal. And I think even just to have that contact and to have had that experience to say to another woman, that this is normal, I think that just must be such a huge relief for anyone in that situation. Because just thinking on my own experience, it was hard enough without adding that into the mix. So again, I mean, that you must see so many patterns. Not only that, but you must see patterns of, I'm just trying to think of, the stages, and as the baby grows, through the toddler stages, and the mom's body getting back to normal, and what they're working through, and nutrition and breastfeeding and coming through all that. So would you have any sort of advice to give to anybody maybe that's listening, if they're thinking about hiring someone like yourself? What would they do first of all, or at what stage would they approach you?
If we're talking about kind of pregnancy and postnatal, I get people, it depends how soon they're sort of thinking about these things. For some people, they don't really think about it until they're already pregnant, and then they're like, actually, they don't even have to be active already. They might just be thinking, actually, I want to be the healthiest that I can be. So at that point, they might then look for, some help and guidance. Or they might have got to the point where they've had the baby and they're like, actually, I need more than what I've been doing previously. I know that I need some, specialist help. So people come to me at all different stages. But they tend to, it's just that awareness that something's changing in your body, that you don't know how to necessarily deal with that, or you just want to do it in the most efficient, safest way that you can. And that's when you probably look for like a specialist trainer. Or in terms of the coaching, it would be maybe you've hit this point where you just feel slightly like you don't really know where you're going, and you don't really know who you are, and maybe you just need a little bit of guidance on how to kind of peel back the layers a little bit and sort of see that actually, you're not just someone's mum, you are also still yourself, and that, everything that you're feeling is completely normal, and you're not the only person. But yeah, so it sort of depends when people have that kind of realization, but generally it's that they have a point where they just go, oh, actually, I can't do this on my own.
Well, I will put all the links on the show notes of the podcast at the end anyway, for anyone that is interested. So I'll make sure to include those. So talk about your audience then. How comfortable are you with your audience? Are you happy speaking in public? And are you happy being visible on social media?
So yeah, I'm happy kind of speaking in public. I do post on social media fairly regularly, and definitely not as good as some people are doing all the kind of fancy stuff, like, making incredible reels and all that kind of thing. It tends to be fairly simple from me.
Do you know what? I think simple is best, honestly. Sometimes messages get lost in all these fancy graphics. People just want to see you,
true.
don't they? People just want to see you. I think keep it simple, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's when you're trying to kind of find out a piece of information from somebody, it's, sometimes you just need them to just go, this is what this is. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to be one of those people who does amazing graphics and dances on TikTok and all that kind of stuff, but that's just not really me. Although
Exactly.
you will sometimes see me put up a video of me kind of swinging about on a pole, but that's about
Really?
it.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Well, that and if that's who you are, then I think that's incredible. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of my hobby. I do pole fitness. I love it. It's a lot of kind of tricks and stuff. I'm not a dancer, so I don't do any of the like lovely dancey type pole, but I do kind of throw myself around a pole and get lots of bruises and all of that kind of thing. And it's great. And it tends to come with a really lovely community as well. Like, the pole community is always really welcoming, and you meet a lot of lovely people.
That takes some strength.
Yeah, it's
Anything.
brilliant for building strength. Like, if somebody hasn't tried it and they get put off by the fact that, you look like you need to be strong to do it, the strength comes with the learning. You don't have to start being, incredibly strong, but you will get there without even really noticing.
So do you have a pole fitted in your house, or do you have to go to a studio?
No, I go to a studio. I'd love to have a pole in my house, but I haven't got enough room to be able to swing myself around.
And I'm imagining you probably need a really solid structure between it'd have to
And
be
you need
done.
relatively high ceilings and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it'd be great if I could. But no, there's a local pole studio that I go to, and I go there a couple of times a week.
Wow, and that's on your social media. I wasn't expecting to hear that, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. If that's your personality, and if I'm looking at someone's social media, and I do get drawn to personalities, and I like to know what their tips are, and we talk about these behind the scenes. I'm interested in what they're doing, what things are like. But for me, I like to see top tips. So when I'm checking out your social media, I'm like, oh, was this, you're doing your pole fitness, which is incredible. Did not know that. So
Yeah.
so interested. So what legacy do you hope to leave as a leader, and how do you measure the impact of your leadership, and really the impact that you've had on these incredible women that you've worked with throughout the years?
I think in terms of legacy, I just want to feel like people have more knowledge and they're not scared to talk about things. So, in terms of menopause and health and all of that kind of thing, that people realize that, everyone will have an individual experience, but there are so many things that people have in common, and that, if you're struggling, you're not crazy. and there's always a route to feeling better. And that's kind of, I hope, what I kind of leave people with, is that, you know, life is positive and there's a lot of good stuff, and it's, you know, no matter how hard it feels, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that I see you as this person that's connecting all these dots, and you're able to share with these women that they're absolutely not alone, and that they're not experiencing something for the first time because someone's inevitably gone through it before. And I think that's incredible that you're in a position to tell women that, you know, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that it isn't endless, that it'll get better, and also to give someone an example of someone else who's gone through the same thing.
Yeah.
And you know, there's
Yeah.
lots of good
It's always really nice for people to see that, actually, you know, here's a person who has gone through that process and look where they are. And you know, that people just need positive messages, really, that, you know, things can be hard, but, you know, there's always help if you ask for it.
And I think when you're feeling in that little world of no hope, if someone gives you that, oh well, someone that I work with has achieved XYZ, you cling to it, don't you? Because that's the evidence that you desperately need. And to have that, you know, someone like you to provide that, I think it's an incredible service, and probably a real humbling experience as well to witness these incredible journeys. So I'm just so fascinated by what you do.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm always really grateful to work in the industry that I work in, and to be in a position where, you know, I do feel like I'm helping people, and that they are getting something from it, and that it helps them to advocate for themselves as well, in terms of, you know, when they're at work. And, you know, because a lot of the time, obviously, women are working at the same time as dealing with all of these things. So having someone in your corner who's like, yes, you can, you know, these are the things that, you know, people can help you with, and, you know, advocate for yourself. It's a privilege.
Yeah, it really is. And the impact that you must have had on women is probably immeasurable. I think it's wonderful. So where can we find out more about you online and your business?
So you can find me in two different places, because I've got a split between my kind of menopause, more just menopause stuff, and the pregnancy and postnatal. So on Instagram and Facebook, I'm Emily G Fitness, and I'm also Master Your Midlife. And I have a free Facebook group for women who are going through menopause, which is also called Master Your Midlife. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, just under my name.
And I will put all the links to these in the show notes for the podcast, if anyone wants to find out more about Emily online. Well, thank you so much. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.
I've learned so much. I could listen to you all night. It's been fascinating just exploring what you do, and listening to all the incredible work that you've done. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for spending time with us today, and special thanks to my lovely guest, Emily Gilliland. Do you need to increase your visibility, and would you like to make more sales? Would you like to get better at speaking and giving presentations? If the answer is yes, then don't miss out on my free resources. You can find the links in the podcast notes, as well as the links that Emily mentioned in the podcast. Join me on the next episode for more tips, tricks and insights. You can follow me on Instagram at Coach Amanda Jane, or visit my website amandajane.co.uk. Bye for now.